Hi cookie connoisseurs, my name is Tom and I'm a cookie addict. Today we're going to talk about one of America's favorite cookies. It's a simple cookie to make, but people love them because they're crunchy and they got sugar and cinnamon on them, and by now you've probably guessed that it's a Snickerdoodle. Yep, we're going to make Snickerdoodles, and they are one of the easiest cookies to make. Don't ask me where the name comes from because nobody seems to know. But if you pull out the recipe book, the recipe's real simple. You need some shortening, two kinds, vegetable shortening and unsalted butter, both of which count as shortening. Some sugar, vanilla extract, baking powder, a couple big eggs, salt, unbleached all-purpose flour. And that's all, and you mix that stuff up. But you know what? I wanted to make a batch of cookies to take to some of my friends at the Huddle House tomorrow because I felt like they needed some comfort cookies, if you will. So that's why I picked Snickerdoodles. But I wanted to do it the easy way. So here's one easy way to do it. You get a box of Krusty's Snickerdoodle cookie mix. You know, why put all those things together when Krusty's has put all that stuff in the box for you? You don't have to pull all that junk out of cupboards. So we're not going to use the recipe. We'll just set that over here. All we need, according to this box, is an egg. Well, I just happen to have an egg here. This is an egg. Notice it's egg-shaped, which means that it will roll off the counter if you let it. Oh, well. But that's what God made shot glasses for. So that holds the egg. And then you need a half a cup, which is 1 stick of butter or margarine. There's a footnote here. It says butter is better, basically. But then there's a catch here. It says softened. Butter softened. And of course, most people who make cookies get to that point and say, oh, doggone it, I should have set the butter out a couple hours ago. Well, in this case, don't worry. I did set the butter out a couple hours ago. And you can see, isn't that fun, that I have a half a stick of butter here. Actually, this stick comes in quarters, which is kind of convenient for measuring. But also notice that I pulled the wrapper mostly off of it earlier today because if you leave it sit out for 3 or 4 hours, it's really hard to get the wrapper to come off easily. So that's all we need to get started, and then we just have to do something a lot of people don't do. That's read the instructions. Number 1, heat the oven to 375. But I want to try something different today. I've been using regular cookie sheets, dark colored non-stick ones. I want to try using an insulated cookie sheet. Then it says if you do that, set the oven to 400. So the oven is over here off camera, but I can see it from here and it says 400, spot on. Then it says stir together the egg, that's this piece, the butter, and the cookie mix until dough forms. Hand kneading if necessary. That's what we're going to do next. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to go get a bowl and we're going to crack this egg. And by the way, the egg is, we only use the inside of the egg. The outside is a protective covering that nature puts on there. And a lot of people don't know this, but in most recipes you want to discard that. What we want is the 2 parts inside the egg. The white, that's the really transparent part, but it gets white when you cook it, and the yolk. And that's about what I know about eggs. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go get a mixing bowl and we're going to stir this mess up. Okay, I'm back. I found us a bowl. I have this wonderful, my daughter has one of these bowls. It's a OXO, I think is the brand. It's got this, yeah it is, and it's got this nice handle. It's a great mixing bowl because you can hold on to stuff. You know, you can hold on to this handle here. You don't have to hold on to the rim of the bowl while you're stirring, and they're made out of some kind of indestructible plastic. I think it's space plastic or something, and they work great. So what we're going to do, oh look, we got 2 things in here. We didn't need that box anyway. I'm going to do this the tidy way, I think, and cut the top of the bag of the main mix that comes in the box and just dump it in there. You can gnaw it with your teeth or use a jackknife or whatever, but I found that this really works pretty well. Okay, so now, and by the way, this little box, this little bag here, That is the cinnamon and sugar mix that we're going to put on the cookies after we roll them up into balls, but we'll get to that part. The next thing we need to do is put this butter in here. This is not a wooden spoon, this is a plastic wooden spoon. It's made to look like a wooden spoon, but it's not. So, it's good to just kind of chop that butter up into chunks, otherwise, it takes forever to mix it in. And excuse the noise. That's one, or half a stick. And this is fun to play with. And you can kind of start to mix it in there. So I mixed up that dough, and it's pretty doughy. And I did hand knead it toward the end because it's a little hard to get all the dry stuff mixed in there, and of course that's why my sleeves are rolled up. So here we have a nice, and I put it out of the mixing bowl just so you can see it better. Now what we're going to do is form this into balls, roll it in cinnamon and sugar, and then put it on this baking sheet. And this is the little packet of cinnamon and sugar that they give you with the mix. So I put that into a kind of a shallow bowl there. And depending on the size of the cookies you want, or how many cookies you want, you can take varying amounts of the dough. But I like to take about enough to make a ball. And you roll this between your hands like that. And if you think it's a little too large, you can pinch some off and roll it again. And this ball of cookie dough is about 3/4 of an inch. So you can just dip it in this cinnamon and sugar, roll it around, put it on the cookie sheet, and do it again. A little too big, put some back, roll it around, still a little too big. Roll it around, dip it in the cinnamon and sugar stuff, put it on the cookie sheet. Give them plenty of space on the cookie sheet because they're going to spread out a little bit. Okay, why 2 cookies? Because that way you can run a test batch. Now this takes more time, but it'll prevent a lot of disappointment. If you fill this whole thing up with cookies, put it in and you cook them too long and they're black on the bottom, you're probably going to be disappointed. And you're going to have to find a different set of friends who are willing to eat them. So run a test batch, just a couple cookies. Start out with a cool baking sheet, one that hasn't been preheated or anything like that. And throw it in for the minimum time. Now on this box of cookie mix they say 6 to 8 minutes, so you set your timer for 6 and you have a look. And if they look like they're about done, you pull them out. If not, you leave them for the full 8 minutes. I might mention that I'm trying something new here. This is an insulated cookie sheet. The bottom really has 2 layers or levels with air between. And that helps to prevent the bottoms of the cookies from burning before the tops are done. At least that's the theory. And so I'm going to try it, and you and I can be the judges as to whether that worked out well or not. So once again, we'll do a little scene change here, and we'll put these cookies in the oven and give them 6 minutes and see what happens. Okay, we're going to get these 2 test cookies in the oven. Uh-oh, almost lost them off the cookie sheet. The oven has been preheated to 400, and it's been preheated for quite a long time, so you won't have the elements going on and off. And we'll start the timer at 6 minutes, and we'll see what happens. Okay, the timer is about to go off. So let's peek in and take a look at these cookies. Oh, they're looking pretty good. But I still don't see the kind of browning I'd like to see. So I'm going to give them another 1.5 minutes. The cooking time for cookies is so short that only a minute or 2 makes a difference. And we'll just wait and take a break here and see what happens in another 1.5 minutes. Okay, our timer is about to go off again. Yep, right on the dot. So let's take another look. Those cookies look good. They've risen nicely. They're a little bit brown along the lower edges. So now what we're going to do is let them cool. Cookies like to cool for about 5 minutes before you take them off the sheet, otherwise they may fall apart. Okay, so the timer's about to go off again. There it goes. That's so reliable. And we've let the cookies cool for about 5 minutes now. They have kind of flattened as they've cooled. But notice, I can nudge that baby right over there, comes right off, and we're going to put it on this gridded cooling rack. And let them cool now for another about 3 or 4 minutes so that the insides can kind of solidify or come together. And then we're going to do the most important thing, and that's the taste test. Okay, our timer is almost ready to go off now, so we better get over here to the cookie station. These cookies have cooled for 3 minutes, and hey, they're looking great. Notice that the bottoms are not dark, and the tops are nicely golden. And we're going to break this one just to see if it's cooked all the way through. And sure enough, nothing doughy or gummy in there, but a very nice texture. So now all we got to do is the production run. We load our cookie sheets up with cookies spaced about 2 inches apart and put them in the oven for the required time. You may remember we started with 6 minutes, but it looked like 7.5 was better. And so we'll do that and keep rotating them off onto cooling racks and so on. One important thing, always cool the cookie sheet with cold water before you, and dry it of course, before you put the next batch on. Because if you put cookie dough onto a hot cookie sheet, it starts to cook immediately, and that screws up your timing, and you don't want that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Snickerdoodles, a great comfort cookie, as my friend Christy said today. Have a great time with your cookies.